come to this planet looking for intelligent life. Oops, we made a mistake.
We're happy to be in America. Don't ask for a green card. Look at me right now, Moneypenny.
Robin Williams made us laugh, cry, and think deeply about life in a way few can. Benevolently, though, there was a guy suffering behind the famous smile and amazing performance. What kind of person who made everyone happy would be fighting by themselves? As we look into the life of his son, Zach, we'll uncover a side of Robin that many never saw, a side filled with pain, love, and unexpected revelations. Robin Williams' lasting impact. Robin Williams wasn't just a comedian. He was a star known for making people laugh and cry at the same time. He was famous on TV and in movies for his amazing skills, and his funny sounds and boundless energy made everyone happy. Robin was funny, but he also had a special talent. He could make people feel things that no one else could. The movie Mrs. Doubtfire, which was one of Robin's favorites, showed how well he could combine sadness and fun. He played a dad who hides himself as an older woman after getting divorced so that he can be with his kids. The movie made people laugh, even though it was about love, suffering, and family. It's still a classic because it shows how Robin's comedy can also carry emotional weight. Robin could make someone laugh or cry. In Good Will Hunting, he played Sean, a therapist who helped a young man face a hard truth. He won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for the moving role he played. Robin was funny, but he could also connect with viewers on a human level because he had the rare ability to be funny and emotional at the same time. Robin was one of a kind because he could change and adapt. He went from playing a silly genie in Aladdin to a smart, caring therapist in Good Will Hunting with ease. His shows were unforgettable because he could make serious things funny at the same time. You could laugh until you cried, and then he'd move on to something that would really hit home for you right now. Robin's life wasn't all fun and games, though. Behind the scenes, he fought sadness, addiction, and the stresses of being famous. Most people thought Robin was funny and cute, but not many knew how hard his life was. Robin often felt sad and worried, even though millions of people laughed. As with many famous people, he had a hard time breaking free from the demands that people had of him. The weight of his fame was very hard on him. Robin Williams was loved all over the world for being so funny, even though his life wasn't perfect. Along with a lot of mental problems, his fame which made him happy. Also, his fans didn't know about his personal problems, but they were real and hard to deal with. Behind the laughs, Robin Williams was a man dealing with hard and sometimes terrible truth. He wasn't just the funny guy we saw on film. So when we think about Robin Williams, we should remember that he was a lot more than just a comedian and movie star. He had a lot of problems in his personal life, but he was a very skilled person. We should never forget the person behind the fame because even the brightest stars may be going through hard times behind closed doors. What heartbreaking truth did Zach finally reveal about his father's final days, growing up in the shadow of fame? Zachary Williams, also known as Zach, is Robin Williams' younger son. As a child, he had a great life because his father was a famous comedian who was in movies like Aladdin, Mrs. Doubtfire, and Jumanji. Millions of people loved Zach's dad, but Zach's life was more complicated than that. He grew up with a dad who was both loved and deeply troubled. Think about living in a world where everyone loves your dad, but things aren't always so happy at home. That's what Zach went through. Robin Williams was a funny and loving dad, even though he struggled with depression, drugs, and then Lewy body dementia. Everyone saw Robin's charm and sense of humor, but Zach knew that Robin was hurting. Most people didn't notice that Robin was having mental health problems, but Zach did. He knew that his dad wasn't always as happy as he looked in movies. For Zach, having a famous father wasn't as cool as it sounds. Even at home, his dad wasn't always there because he was busy with movies or trips. Robin's problems with drugs and mental health made it hard for him to always be the parent Zach needed. As a child, Zach never got why his dad couldn't just snap out of it and be happy all the time. Things were hard for Zach because he just wanted to help his dad, but didn't know how. As Zach got bigger, he began to understand more of his dad's problems. He realized that his mental health problems were real and had been going on for a long time, and that Robin's sadness couldn't be easily fixed. When Robin would sometimes use drugs or drink to deal with his feelings, it was hard for Zach to watch. The man who made millions of people laugh was going through terrible mental pain. As a child, Robin's fame wasn't the only thing that made him feel bad. Seeing his dad suffer was too. Zach sometimes thought that people were only paying attention to Robin and not him. Robin and Zach both felt like they had to be perfect all the time. But seeing his father's mental health get worse was harder on him emotionally than just being famous. Zach agrees that their family suffered and that their relationship sometimes suffered too. But Zach always talked about his dad with love and respect. He loved Robin very much and appreciated the time they spent together, even though he knew Robin wasn't perfect. Even though Robin had problems with mental health and addiction, those problems did not make him who he was. Even though Zach wants people to remember how much happiness his dad brought into the world, he also knows that Robin was a man who needed help behind all the laughing. As Robin's son, Zach found that hard to see. The dark side of Robin's struggles. Robin Williams, who made a lot of people laugh, had problems that most people didn't see. Behind closed doors, he was dealing with some very serious and painful issues. To the public, he was known as the happy, larger-than-life comic. The way Robin's life turned out was much worse than anyone could have imagined. He went through sadness, drugs, and then was fatally diagnosed with Lewy body dementia. Unfortunately, these fights hurt not only Robin but also his family and friends, especially his son Zach. Robin Williams has been open about his sadness for a long time. He was known for making people laugh, but he was always very sad and felt like there was no way out. It wasn't like this went away when the cameras were off. Robin's hopelessness was a real and terrible part of his life that led him to use drugs and drink to feel better. He turned to addiction as a way to deal with the unbearably strong emotions he couldn't handle. Even though he had a great job, a lot of fame, and a loving family, they didn't protect him from the inner struggle he felt. As Robin's oldest son, Zach stood in the front row and watched his father battle. When he was young, he saw firsthand how his dad's sadness hurt not only his mood, but also his overall health. The pain that Robin was going through because of her addiction was even worse. Zach saw his dad try to break free from these ties, but the addiction always came back. Zach loved his dad a lot, but he didn't understand how someone so talented and loved by so many people could feel so lost. He found these events hard. But things got really hard when Robin was told she had Lewy body dementia, a brain disease that gets worse over time and is sometimes given the wrong name. The illness caused new problems that neither Zach nor anyone else could have imagined. It was even harder for Robin to keep his sense of self because he was losing his memories and becoming confused. His mood and behavior also changed. This bad news was devastating for someone like Robin, who had always been so lively, bright, and full of life. Zach says this was one of the hardest times of his life because he had to watch his father slowly lose the things that made him unique. During this time, Zach caught glimpses of what was going on with his father. As the sickness took over his thoughts, he noticed that Robin was confused and irritated. Robin wasn't always the same guy that Zach had grown up with, that funny, smart, and active dad. Instead, Zach saw a man trying to hold on to memories and clear moments. Sometimes it was hard for Zach to talk to his dad about these things while Robin tried to figure out how his mind was failing. Zach remembers that his dad used to talk about how awful it was to feel his mind going away. Robin's fear of losing control and changing into someone she couldn't recognize was crippling. Zach was put in a tough spot because he often had trouble understanding what was going on with him. He wanted to stand up for his dad because he was his son, but he had to face the terrible truth that not much could be done. Zach went through a lot of emotional pain because he had to deal with the loss of the guy he used to know and the pain of seeing his dad get worse. There were more ways for Zach to see his father than through pictures and jokes. He saw that Robin wasn't just a funny, larger-than-life character, but also a man whose mental health problems, addiction, and a sickness that was slowly erasing his sense of self had a huge effect on his life. For Zach, Robin Williams's problems did not change who he was as a person. Instead, they made him more like a person. They talked about how hard life can be for everyone, even the most talented and loved ones, and how there aren't always easy solutions to those problems. When Zach thinks about his father's fight, he thinks about how it changed the way he sees Robin and his surroundings. He learned that problems like Lewy body dementia, addiction, and mental health issues are not something to hide or ignore. No matter how famous or successful someone is, these real challenges can happen to anyone. Zach was more open about his own feelings and problems after losing his father and going through the grief that came with it. His father's battle with mental illness was a turning point in his own life. It shaped his statement about how close they were and how much they loved each other despite the problems. How did these experiences truly shape Zach's understanding of Robin, and what impact did they have on his confession about their bond? A son's heart-wrenching confession. When Zach Williams thinks about his father's life and problems, he feels very heavy about what he says. Zach has talked openly about the pain he felt in the years after Robin's death, and it's clear that the thing that bothers him the most is how helpless he felt while his father was struggling with his mental health. A lot of people thought of Robin Williams as a lighthouse because his laugh could light up even the darkest spots. For Zach, though, it was much harder to figure out what was really going on behind the laughter. He was left trying to make sense of a fight he had no idea how to win. When Zach talks about his father's mental health, his speech has a sad tone to it. Even though they were close, he admits that there were times when he couldn't help Robin and his dad's problems seemed impossible to solve. Just because Zach loved Robin, that didn't mean that his problems would go away. During the worst times in Robin's life, Zach remembers feeling like a wall stood between him and his father. Lewy body dementia was added to the mental health issues and drug abuse that the father and son already had, making them feel trapped in a world they didn't fully understand. For Zach, not being able to do anything became a heavy burden. He feels terrible when he thinks about those years. He wished he could have done more for all the kids who were in such bad shape. He might have been able to get his dad to talk. It's possible that he could have helped his father get over his addiction or get out of his sadness. Even though these ideas come from love, they are filled with a terrible need to blame oneself. Many times, Zach wondered if he could have done something different, something that might have changed the way his father's last days went. In his confession, Zach talks about how painful it was for him to see Robin fall apart right in front of him. In these last few months of his father's life, when Robin wasn't the funny, lively man who lit up the screen, he talks about them. The person Robin Zach knew was leaving was being replaced by someone who was confused, scared, and becoming more and more distant. Robin was sick and felt powerless, knowing he couldn't save himself. This made him want to stay away from Zach. As Zach watched his father suffer, he was struggling with his own inner conflict. He knew that no matter how much love and support he gave Robin, it wasn't enough to stop the invisible forces that were taking over his mind. Still, Zach's statement is more than just guilt. It's worse than the pain of seeing his father suffer. There is a deeper truth to this emotional truth that changes how we see their relationship and may be the cause of Robin Williams's problems. Zach's comment shows that he felt more than just like a son who couldn't do enough to help his dad. He also knew that he wasn't the only one who was seeing his dad struggle. He was also seeing how complicated mental illness is, and how no one, not even Robin Williams, could fully handle it. From "I wish I could have done more" to "I now understand why I couldn't," this fact changes the focus from feeling guilty to understanding. But this is more than just guilt. Everything changes because of Zach's statement, which is based on the truth about his life and how it changed after his father died. From a deeper point of view, we can better understand both his pain and the path to healing he has been on since then. When Zach learned about his father's problems, how did that change his own path forward? What did this help him learn about mental health, family, and finally forgiveness? These are still the questions Zach has when he thinks about how his father's death has changed their relationship. Because Zach told the truth, people can start to understand how complicated mental illness, addiction, and loss can be, instead of just dwelling on the past. Not only does this message make him feel guilty, it also makes him feel sorry for his father and himself. The impact on the Williams family. The death of Robin Williams has had a big effect on his family, and they are still sad every day. Robin, who was known for his never-ending energy, infectious humor, and amazing ability, was more than just a dad to his kids. He was a force of nature. He cared about others, made people laugh, and inspired them. Being around him made everyone feel special. When he died, their hearts felt empty in a way that could never be fully filled. Zach, Cody, and Zelda, his children, all felt different ways about their dad's death. Not only did Zach, the oldest, feel very sad about Robin's death, but he also had to carry his father's issues during his childhood. Many people thought of Robin as the funny, larger-than-life figure in the movie, but his children knew him as a man who was going through a lot of emotional pain. Robin fought sadness, drugs, and then the terrible effects of Lewy body dementia for many years. Zach had lost more than just a parent. He had lost a guy who had been fighting quietly for a long time. Robin's wife, Susan Schneider Williams, also went through a lot when he died. In his later years, she was by his side when he was having mental problems and medical problems. Susan often said that they were connected by love, respect, and an understanding that could not be broken. Their love story was unique, and Robin was hurting so much when she lost her that she couldn't quite put it into words. It made her grief even worse that she had to deal with her own emotions while trying to keep the family together after the disaster. Everyone else was also grieving with her. Robin had mental health problems during his life, which made it harder for Zach to deal with the death of his father. Losing Robin was a terrible reminder of the trouble Robin was having in his own life, not just missing his father's fun and company. After the death of his father, Zach felt a strong need to help others understand how mental health problems can affect both the person who is having them and their loved ones. Even though Zach knew it was important, it wasn't easy for him to share his own pain and experience. Using the heritage of his father as a base, Zach became a strong voice for mental health awareness and spoke out about the truths of mental illness. He was honest about how hard it was for his family while Robin dealt with dementia, addiction, and sadness. By giving these details, Zach wanted to clear up any confusion about mental health and reduce the shame that comes with having a problem with it. Many people learned from how open he was about his father's illness that mental health is just as important as physical health, and that getting help is a brave and necessary first step. Through his work, Zach has shown that it's okay to not know all the answers. He stresses that talking about mental health is very important, even if it seems strange. Zach wants people to understand that mental health problems are difficult illnesses that need kindness, care, and understanding. They are not signs of weakness. He has become a voice for people who are living in silence by getting families to talk openly about their problems and help each other get better. Following the death of his father, Zach found an unexpected but important way to remember Robin's memory. Zach chose to do something good with his pain instead of just focusing on how sad he was about losing him. He kept Robin's energy alive by dedicating himself to helping others deal with mental health problems while he was getting better. Robin wants to honor his father's memory and make sure that his lesson of kindness and compassion lives on by promoting mental health awareness and stressing kindness. People all over the world can learn from Zach's art how to be vulnerable, ask for help, and take care of both our minds and bodies. But what is the surprising way Zach has chosen to honor his father's legacy? The answer may not be what you expect, from pain to purpose. It has been a very personal journey for Zach Williams to get better, but it has turned into a promise to help others. After his father, Robin Williams, died, Zach went through a lot of grief and tried to understand all the different parts of his life. Robin was well known in the entertainment business, but his struggles with addiction and mental health were hidden behind the laughs and amazing acts that captivated millions of people. To heal for Zach, he had to know the pain Robin was going through and use that information for good. not just to deal with his grief over his father's death. With the goal of honoring his father, Zach chose to work as a mental health advocate. By talking about the problems his father was having, he thought he could help other people who were also going through hard times. It was hard to talk about mental health for a long time, especially among people who seemed to have everything, like Robin. But Zach began to change that story by pushing. He knew that telling the story of his family, including the terrible parts about Robin's battle with depression and Lewy body dementia, could start important conversations about the need for mental health awareness. Some of Zach's most important achievements are his public speaking and interview work. He has spoken out about mental health issues and talked about his father's problems to try to reduce the shame that surrounds these kinds of problems. Zach has been honest about how hard it was to watch Robin get worse. He has talked about his own struggles with depression and addiction, as well as how hard it is to live with a loved one who is also dealing with these problems. By being open about his own loss and rebuilding, Zach has helped other people feel less alone on their own paths. In addition to giving speeches, Zach has worked as an advocate for a number of mental health groups. He has worked with groups to learn more about sadness, suicide prevention, and dementia in order to help people who may be hurting but not saying anything. Through these agreements, Zach has been able to turn his sadness into something that can help make the world a better place, giving hope to people who are going through similar things. He started out advocating for mental health as a way to remember his father, but now it's become a very important way to honor Robin's heritage. Even so, this road has had its hard times. To respect the terrible facts of Robin Williams' personal life and appreciate his comedic genius, Zach knows that there is a fine line to walk. Robin was a master of humor and brought joy to many people around him with his unique talent. Zach knows that one of his dad's lasting gifts was the ability to make people laugh, shed light on the worst things that happened, and entertain in ways that changed the world. Because he was so funny, he became well known. But Zach also knows that Robin's story isn't just about laughing. It's also about deep, often hidden pain. Honoring the fact that his father struggled with depression and the terrible effects of Lewy body dementia does not make him less smart. Instead, it helps us learn more about Robin as a person, not just his public image. An important part of Zach's healing is being able to see all of his past and accept the good and bad parts of his father's life. Zach has talked about how important it is to find a way to respect Robin's sense of humor in public appearances and talks while also pointing out how complicated his emotional life is. With the realization that his father's problems were just as real as his successes, Zach has found the deepest way to honor Robin's life. Zach shows others that they can heal by accepting both the good and the bad things that happen in life. He does this not by ignoring the problems that come up, but by meeting them head-on and using them to make things better. Zach Williams has found a way to heal and help others through his work as an activist for mental health problems. His work was a tribute to the parent he loved most, whose struggles became a way for him to understand and change. Honoring Robin's personal suffering and appreciating his comedic genius is a balance that Zach has found. This tells us of how important mental health is and how telling our stories can help people who may be quietly suffering. Lessons from Robin Williams' life. Robin Williams' life has been full of extremes. He has been very funny and very sad, smart and hard to deal with. Robin became a cultural icon of happiness through his famous career as a performer who could make anyone happy. Robin fought depression, addiction, and then Lewy body dementia while everyone laughed. Now his son Zach Williams has a rare and moving look at the guy behind the fame. He has lived his father's life up close. We can learn important lessons from this, not only about mental health, but also about how to treat people we respect and how to help our loved ones when the rest of the world doesn't seem to understand their problems. Robin's story shows how dangerous it is to judge people based on their mental health. During most of his work, Robin Williams was the person who people turned to when they were feeling down. His humor helped millions of people who were looking for comfort. Even though he did so much for others, he was also dealing with some problems that no one could see. This conflict shows how important it is to talk about mental health in an open and honest way. These talks can help people break down the walls of shame and fear that keep them from getting help. Robin's story shows that mental illness affects everyone, no matter how successful they are. And the fact that Zach admitted to feeling guilty, uncertain, and helpless shows us that even the people nearest to us may not always know how to help us through our problems. Family members need to have these talks the most. Zach's thoughts about his father's life show that their connection is complicated, marked by both love and terrible distance. Robin's family's experience with his mental health problems shows how important it is for everyone to communicate better, including the person who is hurting and those close to them. We can create a closer, more supportive space where people feel free to ask for help instead of suffering alone if we all talk about our own thoughts, feelings, and fears. This kind of honest, open talk is the first step toward healing. Even though things are bad for his dad, Zach remembers how Robin made every room brighter. He writes many stories about Robin and how his sense of humor can make anyone happy, and how his kindness often leaves people in awe. Robin was known for being kind in both his personal and professional life. Zach often thinks back on small but important things that happened, like how Robin would go out of his way to make other people feel seen, even when he was having his own problems. Zach wants people to remember this part of Robin, not just the laughs, but also the love he has for other people, the warmth, and the humor. Zach asks his fans in a direct but important way, remember my father for his light, but also understand how important it is to deal with the darkness. He wants people to remember the man who made a lot of people happy, but also to understand how complicated his life was and how important it is to be kind to people who are dealing with mental health problems. We can learn a lot from Robin Williams' life and Zach's brave confession. We need to value the light and bring attention to the darkness so that no one feels like they have to deal with their problems on their own. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Click on the next video popping up on your screen for more incredible stories. See you next time.